you say about wine or beer? It was used by kings in the Bible. In the traditions, we hear a lot of beer in occasions, and today too, as worrying to cause even young teens to have. Again, I repeat, alcohol is not condemned of the Bible. Drunkenness is. The reason the church would encourage you not to take even a little is because you can never sin by being drunk if you don't take a little. The moment you take a little, you are moving towards the direction of where you end up taking a lot, either of sin against God. Remember, we are not talking about doing wrong when you are drunk. Even simply getting drunk and sleeping was you have broken God's word that says, don't be drunk with wine. Question: should I wait for my parents to pay the dowry before I get married because they will not agree to receive my dowry when I get married? Answer: dowry is not a Christian activity, and yet the Bible encourages us to be generous. But like we discussed, there's a difference between giving a gift and giving dowry. Dowry is demanded, dowry is a price of a girl, gift is just generosity. So instead of getting involved in dowry, why don't you just give gifts? And if that's what you are doing, then you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for your parents to pay any dowry, because in your case you are not going. Your parents will not receive any dowry. They only receive a gift. To intermarry or marry different tribes, the answer is in 1 Corinthians 7:39. People are told, women are told, you are free to marry anyone, but they must belong to the Lord. So you are better off marrying somebody who is not from your tribe but born again than marrying somebody from your tribe who is an non-Christian. The scriptures do not allow you to marry non-Christians. But any Christian from whichever tribe or culture is a welcome. Kikuyu is saying that the reason we are involved in dowry is for the sake of our children. Tutirutaga rũracio nĩ ũndũ wa mũtumia, tũrutaga rũcia tũmũracagĩria nĩ ũndũ wa ciana. Is simply implying when you pay dowry, you are paying for a childbearing machine. That means if you marry a woman and she doesn't have a baby, you are free to divorce her and get a refund of your money. That's Kikuyu, that's Luya, but it's not Christian. That's why we don't want to get involved in dowry, paying for a woman. Marry someone because you love them. Marry someone because you want to spend your life with them. Marry someone because you want, according to Malachi 2:15, to bear godly children for God. Do not treat your wife like a piece of machine to be sold and bought. So it's true that Kikuyu is saying, but it's unchristian, and I'll encourage you not to follow. 1 Corinthians 7:39 talks about what a woman will do if her husband died. Does does it mention anything about when a wife dies? It's the same thing. The rule is the same. A man, if his wife has died, a Christian man who dies, is free to stay single or to marry. The only condition is he must be in the Lord. The Bible doesn't have one rule for men, another one for women. If it is wrong for a man to marry a non-Christian, it's wrong for a woman to marry a non-Christian. My husband died without paying dowry for my father, to my father. Now my daughter want to get married. As a Christian, how should I deal with this situation? Do I send my daughter and her husband to be to my father, or what should I do? Simply say no to the issues of dowry. You yourself refuse to receive dowry. And in a similar way, since you don't believe in it, it will not be necessary to give for your husband to give your parents. And again, your husband is dead. For you to pay dowry to your parents. It's out. However, if you are obeying the scriptures, my sister, you must be giving your parents gifts regularly. So it's not a specific thing. Stay your life supporting your parents, and you will never need to have a special occasion because you have been helping them anyway all the time. Similarly, don't accept dowry for your children, and your children will continue giving you gifts without demanding them. And in that case, there will be no issue of dowry. Why do people stop speaking or their vernacular and regard that as progress? I think it's just a level of foolishness. They think that if they speak Swahili or English, they will not be tribal. But I've already demonstrated to you, tribalism is not a language. Tribalism is a feeling. If your children may not know your vernacular, but if you teach them to hate other tribes, they will hate them in English or in Swahili. They don't need to be speaking vernacular. The vernacular you speak cannot make you tribal. Because tribalism is not a language. It's a feeling and actions that makes you think your tribe is more important than a tribe. That is negative and ethnicity. Mom died. She was buried in her dad's house as they had been separated with my dad. After her burial, my uncle said the marriage was broken. Please advise because my husband wants to correct things. There's absolutely nothing to correct. Dowry is not a Christian thing, and because it's not a Christian thing, there's no requirement that you pay any dowry to anybody. But the issue of helping your parents when they are alive, you do. If they are dead, you cannot communicate with the dead. It's not Christian. Therefore, there's nothing you can do on behalf of dead people. So simply stop receiving dowry yourself, and you'll not be required to give dowry for your grandparents or your parents. Alcohol is a means to blessing. That when the girl is getting married, then they are given alcohol. The boy is given alcohol, the girl is given alcohol is a blessing. That is not biblical. Blessings do not come from people. Blessings don't come from pastors. They don't come from parents. They come from God. What pastors do is to ask God to bless you. What parents do is to ask God to bless you. If that be the case, all you need is to cry to God. He says, ask anything in my name, and I'll do it. He doesn't say, first of all, drink alcohol. It doesn't say that put saliva on your chest. So you need alcohol to get saliva for your chest. All those is another religion. If you're in Kikuyu traditional religion, go ahead and do those. If you're a Christian, have nothing to do with it. My son need to go to his uncle for blessing before circumcision. Not at all. But if you're in traditional religion, you must, because that's a requirement of that religion. If you're a Christian, all it requires when you talk about you as a father blessing a son is to pray for him that God, who is the source of blessings, can he give blessings. So why would you need to go to uncle? You don't have to. If he loves his nephew, he will pray for him for blessings. There's absolutely no ceremony required for blessings. Old Testament, that used to be part of that culture. New Testament, Paul, if you many times he's praying for church, it's just a prayer. No ceremony of any sort. So your son does not have to go to his uncle for any blessing. Is being involved in culture retrogressive? No. It's a choice. If your choice is traditional religion, then you'll accept both the innocent customs and the religious customs. If you're a Christian, you must abandon the religion of your tribe. But you have to you don't have to throw away the rest of the culture. You can keep with it, but that's a preference, not a requirement. And I would encourage you to keep to your customs, not to abandon them. But the religion, you can't be in two religions. If you choose Christ, you must say no to those others. Generational curses. The moment Christ died on the cross, he took your curse. So even if there was a curse by your great great grandfather, when you get born again and submit yourself fully to Christ, then his blood cleanses you from all that caused the curse. And you cannot live under the fear of curses that came from previous generations. Should they disturb you, I think it will be important for you to go for prayer and counseling. But generally speaking, that act of dying on the cross was gigantic. It cleared all our debts to the devil. We no longer need to pay any. Yeah. Cultural marriage or Christian marriage. I'll encourage you to read my book, Marriage, Christian or Traditional. I don't think you talk about superiority. They are just different religions. So if you're in traditional religion, stick with it. If you're in Christianity, you can only have a Christian marriage. Don't try to be in both. Don't even bother comparing. They are simply different. When Paul did some rituals in Jerusalem, was he in line with Christianity? No. Acts 15 says the Jews can continue with their customs. The Gentiles don't have to copy their customs. But the Jews were not told to stop their customs. The only thing he said is that Jewish customs were not of any spiritual benefit. But if they choose to continue doing them, no problem. So a Jew would continue doing those things, but when you became a Christian, you knew they are not of any spiritual value. So Paul had said it many times, but he even got Timothy circumcised, knowing it is useless. He said it is useless, but in order to reach to the Jews, he wanted that not to be a hindrance. The Kikuyu priests of the Kikuyu traditional region went and sought of their God. It would rain. Christians today, it doesn't rain and it doesn't. That is totally untrue. In my life, in God. So don't be cheated. Who did the data? Who did the statistics in order to show that God has stopped answering prayers? The people telling you they don't believe in God, how will they, or in Jehovah, how will they be the same one telling you he doesn't work? He has answered my prayers. However, the Christian God, Jehovah, only answers when he chooses to, only answers what he says is best for us. So he says he will not withhold something good for us. But if, for example, he wants us to go through a certain period of famine, like happened with when Elijah said there'll be no rain for 3 years, there's not going to be rain even if you prayed. It was you, Jehovah, but he was punishing the Israelites. So you need to understand God is still at work today. But if you choose to go the way of the Kikuyu traditional elders, again, stick there, but don't try to be in both. Words. If you have no culture, you have no identity. You are a slave to the foreigners. I agree with them. That's why I have kept saying you are just talking about the preferred way of doing things, don't add on yours to copy others. But when it comes to a religion, you must ask yourself, is Jesus God? If he is God, sent from heaven to tell you how to worship, how can you continue worshiping traditional ways when a new way has come from the same God? God cannot tell you, I now want to worship this way, and we insist on worshiping the old way. So let's be clear. Customs, keep with them. Innocent customs, preferred way of doing things, keep with it. Your religious customs, you can't be a Christian and not abandon them. In the Old Testament, when people died, they were told they rested with their ancestors. In the New Testament, something similar happened. Paul calls it, he has gone to the presence of the Lord. Different language. I may not I may not spend too much time in the Old Testament because I'm not in Judaism. I'll stick with the New. And the New Testament, we don't go to rest with our ancestors. We go to be with the Lord. That's what Paul says. That's what the New Testament describes. Death is leaving this body in order to be present with the Lord, not with our ancestors. In Kikuyu traditional religion, you die, you join your ancestors. And there's similar statements in the Old Testament, but it's not New Testament theology. Of dowry, um, I think the answer is yes. You can't be a Christian and not stop doing certain ceremonies of Testament. That's the message of the book of Acts, chapter 15. The Gentiles were told, you don't have to copy the Jewish customs. Stick with your customs. However, when it comes to religious customs, stop the religious customs of yours. But you are not supposed to stop yours to go to copy religious customs of the Old Testament. You now follow the New Testament direction. Let me repeat what I said. The New Testament interprets the Old Testament. We still must read the Old Testament if we want to understand the New Testament, but we actually do what the New Testament tells us. Is it bad to go for parents' blessings? The question is, I mean, you don't have to go for blessings. Any good parent will bless you without you going for a special blessing. He will bless you. In fact, any good parents prays for you to be blessed every day. So when you hear somebody says it to go for blessings, it's a loaded word, and it's not likely to be a Christian thing. It's likely to be just a traditional way. And they'll ask you to bring a goat. They'll ask you to bring certain gifts. They'll ask you for money. Then you are no longer in the Christian system. Christian system, you don't have to give anything for the pastor to pray for you to be blessed. You don't have to give anything to your parents for them to pray for you to be blessed, because they are not the one blessing you. They're just asking the Lord to bless you, and there's nothing you can give to God for him to bless you. Avoiding to name my father who is a drunkard. Now, I have a problem with that because I have kept repeating, even if you take a name in a dictionary and name your child that, what about if that name is the name of a drunkard or a witch? It just happens to be in the dictionary or in Google. So remember, naming your child any name does not mean he becomes like that name. It is his choice who he will become. You can name your child Mr. Haina, but he'll not become Haina. And if he actually gets born again, he is assured of God's blessings, irrespective of the name you give them. However, I wouldn't give my child a name which becomes a burden for him to carry. The name you give must be okay. So naming your father, whether it's a good or bad, will not make your child good or bad. So you should not fail to name your father because he's a drunkard. If the reason you are naming him is just a way of remembering him or not remembering him. But the choice is yours. There's no biblical instruction of how to name. Let's be clear. We are not Muslims. So when we don't follow Muslim rules, there's no way you can get the cursings the Quran talks about. If we are Christians, we earn ourselves God's curse by disobeying the Bible. If we are in traditional religion, again we expect curses if we don't do what the traditional religion says. So, in the wedding process, for example, involving alcohol to earn cause, things like that, you don't do them because you don't expect them blessings, neither can you receive a curse for not following them. However, not respecting older people is unbiblical. Even when you don't want to do those things because they are religious, you must be very courteous and respectful to the older people. Sometimes in dreams we meet with our dead parents. What does that mean? It's simply a dream. Since the scriptures do not allow the dead to talk to you, the fact that you dreamed. And remember, dreams at times are just a memory of something that happened or almost happened. So it's not talking about the dead person is not talking to you. Neither are you talking to them. It's simply a dream. However, if after waking up you start thinking about it, that's where the trouble is. If you feel it's disturbing you, remember it can only be demonic. Cast out the demon in the name of Jesus. Some communities claim that the dead can refuse to be buried and indeed vehicles toll when their bodies are in board. You know, if you are in traditional religion, those are the things that happened. And even in Kikuland, there are many things that used to happen when we were operating under that Kikuyu traditional religion. What surprised people was when people stopped believing in that way and became Christians. Those things never disturbed them. Bodies of Christians do not do those things those tribes say claim they do. Because for him, that's not according to his faith. So you need to come to where you are totally surrendered to God. And if you are, then those things you will not believe them and they will not happen to you. If a car has broken down, you don't start saying that the dead body has said anything. And if you fear, just talk to God about it. And if you think a demon is disturbing you, you cast it out the demons. You don't do what you hear people saying you should do. It is demonic. Don't entertain the dead dealing with the living. Are not demonic. Why? Because to tell a person who has lost a loved one how the parents or the uncles or the son was a blessing to you, it's a way of encouraging the person who has lost a loved one. How could that be evil? But when you start addressing the dead person, rather than talking to the living, you are talking to the dead, then you are entering the demonic world. In an intermarriage, what tongue makes preference, the mother tongue or the father tongue? Why do you have to choose one? Why can't the children, now that they are blessed with many languages, why can't they speak English, Swahili, and then if it's Kikuyu and Luya, also speak Luya and Kikuyu? Children have the capacity to learn all the four. Why limit them? If you really want to learn Kikuyu, Luya, or whatever, just go to the Anglican school at um, at Upper Hill next to NSSF, which is the ACK language school, and they'll teach you the language, whatever your age. Is alcohol necessary during the wedding process? Remember, we said, first of all, Christians do not go through ratio, dowry process, no. But they still go through the cultural process because many of those cultures, there's nothing wrong. What's wrong with the parents of the boy getting to know the parents and relatives of the girl? That's good. So Odhoni or friendship creating between the two clans is something that we encourage. What has to be abandoned are the ancestral requirements, including that you cannot marry this or the other, or in this clan you must give 10 goats. That's what we are saying we don't want to get involved in ancestral requirements. But the rest of it is nothing wrong. So visiting each other, creating a relationship is not demonic. Is it wrong to be part of the Kikuyu elders? The answer would be no, because if you're a Kikuyu and you are old, why should you not be called an elder? The only trouble is, according to the Kikuyu Council of Elders or Kiamakia Buri, they will not allow you to become just because you are older. You must sacrifice a goat. That's why they are called the Council of Goats, because of the requirement of the goat. As a Christian, you can never give the goat because it's not meat thereafter. That one you can buy from a butchery. It's the blood. And the scriptures in Acts 15 tells us the Gentiles are free to carry their culture, but not any culture that requires blood. So it is not difficult to join the Kikuyu Council of Elders for a Christian. It's impossible. They will not allow you because you will not agree to do the things, religious things they're asking you to do. That Christianity is a white man's religion. Ask him what it means. Because if it means that because the British are the ones who brought it here is their religion, he is wrong. Because he knows very well Christianity did not come from there. For many years, they fought Christianity. The British, the Germans, they hated Christianity. They fought it. Why were they fighting it? It's a foreign religion. So where is the home of Christianity? You say Palestine. But Palestine, the Jews fought it. That's how we know Christianity does not have a home in a particular geographical zone. Christianity is heavenly. So to call it a foreign religion Either you are not educated, therefore you don't know history, or you are lying. Christianity does not have a particular tribe on earth that own it. What comes first, religion or culture? I think you don't know the difference. Culture includes religion, so they cannot be separated. All cultures have both innocent customs and religious customs. Somebody asks, is there an in between where we do meet? No, the two are not different. You need to understand culture includes religion, is there. However, when you become a Christian, you come out of your traditional religion. You don't come out of your all your cultural customs. You only come out of your traditional religion. And you remain an African, you remain a Kikuyu, but now a worshipper of Jehovah.